You've spent the last 2 months babying these pepper plants under a powerful grow light, and then you take them outside and 2 days later, the leaves are starting to turn white and crispy and look scorched. What happened? What can you do? I'm going to tell you in this video exactly what's going on there, what you can do to prevent it if it's not too late, and what you should do about it if it does happen to your plants. Let's get right into it. So why are your plants looking white and crispy? Well, it's because they didn't get a chance to build up that protection that they get from hardening off. So when your plants are hardened off properly, they have a slow build to that stress and they build a thicker waxy cuticle layer on top of their leaves. It makes them much more resistant to the UV strength of the sun. Some people will argue that their grow lights are strong enough, it doesn't need to be hardened off because they can take the sunlight. There's not a grow light that you'll have in your home that is that powerful. Okay, you cannot properly condition your plants to this harsh UV sun just by using a grow light. You have to do some sort of hardening off or you put them at risk of burning, right? Doesn't mean every one of them is always going to burn every time, but you're significantly increasing that risk. What happens is, just like me, I got a bunch of color because I spent like 30 hours outside over the weekend, right? The plant has a reaction to that UV radiation from the sun. The leaf, if it doesn't have a nice thick cuticle layer and it's not already preconditioned through repeated stress, is what you're really doing that builds up that reaction, it doesn't handle that UV radiation well. Just like that first time you go out and spend a day on the lake or out in the sun in the field, whatever it happens to be, or just in the garden when you haven't had sun all winter and you come back bright red, that's what's happening to your plant, right? The tissue is burning, it is being torched by the sun. Like so many of you every spring, I start my plants from seed indoors. I grow a ton of pepper plants and other things, but today I'm talking about my peppers because I just put them out in the garden over the weekend. These plants have been under really powerful grow lights. Everything was fine. I've had a fan on them. They've been doing great. So I took these plants outside. I got them hardened off properly over about a week, a little more than a week. And that's the proper step that you have to do to prevent sunburn from happening on your plants. But some of my plants still have sunburn, and I'll tell you why. But just a reminder, hardening off is a process where you take your seedlings out from that nice controlled indoor environment and you put them outside for lengthening periods of time over the course of 7 to 14 days. Usually you'll start with just maybe half an hour to an hour, ideally in some sort of shade for a day or two, take them back inside, right? By maybe day 3 or 4, you're doing 4 to 6 hours a day and you're starting to expose them to some sunlight. Just keep an eye on your plants. Make sure that if you see signs of stress, see signs of that burning or anything from the sun, that you take them back inside or get them under some really good shade. But you repeat that process, continuing to put your plants out for a longer bit of time until they have spent 2 full day and nights outside. At that point, if they're not showing any stress, they're ready to go in the garden, right? So if you do that, you're going to prevent this kind of sunburn. But like I said, I did that, and still you can see some of my plants got sunburn. Why? There's a couple of reasons. If you notice in my hardening off photos, I had all of my plants in 10 by 20 trays, 18 plants to a tray. There is a dense canopy. All of these plants don't grow at the exact same rate, and so some of the plants that were out there were under dense shade from the canopy of their neighboring plants pretty much their entire life. Then they went outside to be planted and they got exposed to the full sun that they hadn't really had, even though they had been hardened off. If that happens to your plant, depending on how bad it happens, it's not the end of the world. So what do you do if you've gone out to your garden after you planted everything, or even while you were hardening off, maybe you left them out there a little too long and you see this, right? This leaf that is all torched and it doesn't look too happy. Don't confuse it with this leaf over here. That's just a variegated pepper plant. The white is supposed to be there, right? But you can tell here, this one has been burnt. Don't panic unless it looks really bad. I've seen some pictures online from some of the folks in the pepper communities that they forgot they were hardening off, or they trusted a family member to harden off and they forgot to bring the plants back in and they were just ghost white, completely torched. Like, there's no saving that, right? But what you want to do, take a look at your plant, and the leaves that are burned, I know it's tempting to like clip those off. Don't, right? Just leave them. In some cases, most of that leaf will still function. In some cases, it'll naturally die off and fall off from the plant. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to go prune it and open up another wound that maybe puts it at risk for some sort of an infection or anything to come up from the soil. So I would recommend, if you have leaves that are only lightly damaged, they may recover, so leave them on there. If they're pretty heavily damaged, the plant will get rid of it in its own good time. So you don't have to worry about that, right? Just leave the burned leaves on. But step 2 is do a little inspection of that apical stem, like right at the very tippity top, the new growth on your plant. If you see green growth happening there still, it's a really good chance that that plant is going to be fine and it's going to keep growing, but you still want to put shade or something on that plant if it's already gotten burned once, right? Sometimes you have to harden off in place in your garden. Shade cloth is awesome for this. I highly recommend everybody has shade cloth around. I buy the big roll just so that I can cut off what I need. I can reuse those pieces every year. And then when I have new garden beds or I need to just like isolate a plant with a cage or something, I can do that. Piece of cake. If you don't have shade cloth, try to figure out something you can do. If it's in a container, move it to a shadier spot. If it's in ground or in a raised bed, other things that you can do, put up umbrellas, string a blanket if you need to, whatever you have to do to create some shade for that plant to help it acclimatize after it's already been burned is really going to help it recover more quickly. Now, if you look at that plant and it's so badly burned that there is no green growth, no new growth at the apical stem there is nothing happening, it's probably toast. That has happened to me. Like there's been times where I just kind of did that stupid thing people do, YOLO, and I put the plant outside. Well, yeah, that plant only lived once too, and it didn't live very long. So harden off your plants. You'll avoid the sunscald. Don't panic if you see it. It's time to put on your inspection glasses and figure out what's the real situation going on here? Is my plant going to bounce back or did I really burn it? And then take the necessary actions to be patient, right? Leave those leaves alone. Leave those leaves alone. Yeah, that's right. And hopefully you will have a healthy pepper plant or whatever it is. It's not just pepper plants, right? Everything pretty much needs to be hardened off if you started it indoors. So don't skip that step. If you already skipped that step and you paid a price for it, now you know what to do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Maybe hit subscribe. If you really enjoy the video, consider becoming a member. You get some awesome perks like early access to videos, members only content, seeds from some of the stuff that I'm growing every few months if you're interested. It's really hard to say no. Appreciate you all. Remember, plants help us grow.